Glad you are all here. I hope the program has been going well for you and you've been able to stay in touch with your table helpers. I hope this information has been really beneficial and that you've been able to develop really good habits as you're going through this, and you're really noticing some differences. Just a reminder to you all to rename yourself. Looks like everyone has, so we're good on that front. Dr. Nelson had an emergency that popped up this evening, and so we have Dr. Adams is giving us our presentation this evening. We're looking forward to that, and I think you're doing it on fruits. Is that correct, Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to that. It's one of my favorite topics, and one of my favorite things to eat as well. So let's just have prayer as we're opening up here and ask God's blessing on our program. Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be here this evening and learning this information that will make a real difference in our life. I just pray that you'll bless us, guide us, and help us. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, Dr. Adams, I'm going to turn the time over to you for our lecture.
All right. I'm going to hit my share screen here. And this is the one I want to share. And let's make it a PowerPoint presentation. There. Everybody should be able to see that. Welcome back to Best Way. And tonight we're talking about fabulous fruits. And fruits are just magnificent to look at. So many different shapes and colors. And when you bite into them, so many different flavors and so many different textures. And there are basically 4 fruit groups. And one group is the berry group. And of course, we're familiar with blueberries and strawberries and raspberries, but grapes are in the berry family, and strangely enough, bananas and papayas are as well. And then you have another family called drupes, and they have a large seed. And so you can see peaches and apricots and cherries and olives and plums all fit into the drupes category. And you can see there are some wide differences in both texture and flavor there. And then you have the palms, and the palms are all fairly large fruits and include apples and pears. And they have small seeds that are in the middle of the fruit. And then you have a group called Hesperidia, and most of the citrus fruit is in this family, oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruit, but interestingly enough, also cantaloupe fits into the Hesperidia family as well. Well, the first thing that I want to cover tonight is the fact that fruits are extremely useful in preventing disease. And we're going to look first at citrus. And this is the likelihood of developing breast cancer by the grams of citrus in a diet per day. And you can see that individuals with the highest intake on the right there have about a 25% reduction in the risk of breast cancer. And it's even more dramatic if you take a look at bladder cancer in women. And here we're looking at the grams of citrus per 1,000 calories a day. And those with the highest intake of citrus have just a tad more than a 50% reduction in the likelihood of developing bladder cancer. And the risk of coronary heart disease is decreased by the use of citrus as well. And there is essentially a 30% decrease in the risk of coronary heart disease for those who are having the most amount of citrus. Interestingly enough, you reach the maximum benefit at actually a fairly low dose of citrus. And so it doesn't take a huge amount of citrus to make a big amount of difference in coronary heart disease. And this is interesting as well. It has been shown that lung cancer is reduced about 25% in those who have citrus, even once a week. And this is a very interesting finding because it is true for green and yellow vegetables as well. There is a protective effect for lung cancer, and this is even in smokers. So people who smoke cigarettes heavily, if they eat citrus and eat their green and yellow vegetables every day, there's a 30% reduction in the risk of developing lung cancer. So these foods are very, very protective. And men can take some comfort in this. There is just about a 50% decrease in the risk of prostate cancer by the amount of fresh citrus fruit in the diet. Having it 5 or more times a week reduces the risk by 47%. And that's just a dramatic reduction in prostate cancer. And the benefits actually spill over into dried fruit as well. There are some fruits that we tend to eat in a dried state. Apricots frequently, dates, raisins, prunes. And if you look at dried fruit, the risk of cancer of the pancreas and the mortality rate for cancer of the pancreas is very high. And there is like a 70% reduction in the risk of dying of pancreas cancer if you have dried fruit in the form of raisins, dates, or other dried fruit 3 or more times a week. And so that is a word to the wise. It is also true for cancer of the prostate. Men who have dried fruit 5 or more times a week have a 50% decrease in the risk of dying of cancer of the prostate. And so you can see fruit is tremendously beneficial. Now, one of the questions that frequently comes up, particularly among diabetics, is what about fruit and diabetes? And to discuss this, I want to bring up the concept of glycemic index and glycemic load again. And these are related terms. Glycemic index is how high your blood sugar rises after eating 100 grams of a specific food. Well, there are some foods that we would eat 100 grams. There are other fruits we would never eat 100 grams. There are other fruits we might eat 200 or 300 grams. And so the glycemic load is not measured so much on grams, but by a standard serving. And how high does your sugar rise after a standard serving? They both give you the same kind of data, but the numbers and the importance shifts a little bit. And here is the glycemic index of a lot of common foods. And if you look at the glycemic index, bananas, cantaloupes, grapes, and raisins are high. And in the medium group are blueberries, grapefruit, and prunes. And those that are better for you in the glycemic index are apples, pears, peaches, oranges, plums, apricots, and strawberries. But if you look at glycemic load, some of these fruits make a drastic shift. You might notice that apples and pears jump up to a high glycemic load and may not be as good for you. Prunes jump up to the high category. Oranges go from low to medium. But there are a number of fruits that stay in the low category either way. And that would include strawberries, plums, and peaches. And you can see that there are a number of fruits that are very beneficial on the low glycemic load side and on the low glycemic index side. But if you were to limit yourself to the medium and low fruits on either list, you would be doing okay. Now, there are some fruits that get shifted downward, and that would be cantaloupe and grapefruit. And so let's look at fruits, and will they really give you diabetes or not? Well, it turns out that you can eat a wide variety of fruits and it will actually lower your risk of getting diabetes. Even high glycemic index fruit is associated with a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. On the other hand, fruit juice, and it doesn't matter what kind of fruit juice, orange juice, apple juice, grape juice has already been squeezed, already been chewed, already been eaten, and so the sugar content in juice is immediately available. And those who consume a lot of fruit juice have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. But if you're drinking a lot of fruit juice, and you substitute fruit instead of the juice, then your risk of developing diabetes goes down. And I'm going to give you several examples. If you switch from drinking orange juice to eating prunes, your risk of diabetes goes down 11%. If you switch from drinking orange juice to eating citrus fruit, your risk of diabetes goes down 12%. If you switch from orange juice to bananas, your risk of diabetes goes down 13%. If you substitute apples and pears for orange juice, your risk of diabetes goes down 14%. And if you switch from orange juice to grapes or raisins, the benefit is even greater. Your risk of diabetes drops 19%. And the largest drop comes from switching from orange juice to blueberries, where the risk of diabetes drops by 33%. So you can see that fruits are beneficial, much more beneficial than orange juice is, or any citrus juice, or any juice. It's better to use the fruit rather than the juice. And if you switch from apple juice to these fruits, your risk drops 18%. Now let's take a little closer look at fruit and coronary heart disease. And this was a really large study, and they found that citrus fruit lowered the risk of cardiovascular diseases by 22%, apples and pears cardiovascular disease by 14%, and grapes by 14% as well. And some of the benefit of fruits comes from a class of compounds known as flavonoids. And I'm mentioning this because there are people that try to sell you flavonoids and will put it in a pill for you and tell you that what makes fruit so good are the flavonoid compounds. Well, flavonoids are good. Flavonoids are antioxidants, they're anti-inflammatories, they prevent DNA mutations, which means that they prevent cancer, they help prevent heart disease. And the flavonoids are key enzyme function in cells in humans. And this is what some of the flavonoids look like. There are actually 7 large families of flavonoids, and most of them have flavo in the name, but there's a whole family of flavonols, a whole family of flavonones, and flavanones, and flavon-3-ols, anthocyanins, and others as well. These are all polyaromatic hydrocarbons, and if they were created in cigarette smoke, they would kill you, but in fruit, they help save your life. And flavonoid foods are not only prevent cancer and prevent heart disease, but they prevent dementia as well. As you know, we don't have a lot of good treatments for dementia. And you yourself know when your memory starts to slip, it's kind of slow, and prevention is the key. And flavonoid foods prevent subjective cognitive decline. And the best fruits in this really large study that was done last year to prevent cognitive decline are blueberries, strawberries, peaches, apricots, plums, cantaloupe, grapefruit, apples, pears, bananas, and oranges. And if you notice, most of those fruits are on the low glycemic index, low glycemic load list. And so not only is our whole fruits really good at preventing cancers and heart disease, they help prevent dementia as well. And so the bottom line of today's lecture is let's eat more fruit. They've got such beautiful colors, delicious flavors, delightful textures. They prevent disease at multiple levels, and they have a low calorie density, and they're widely available. They're shipped in from everywhere. There's no excuse for not eating wonderful fruit. So that's the end of today's lecture. It was kind of a short lecture, and I hope that the main question that I answered was relative to diabetes. If you're a diabetic, you should avoid juice, but you don't need to avoid fruit. But it would be wise to choose fruits that are on the low glycemic index list. And one question has come in, and it has to do with potassium and bananas. There are certain medications that you're on, particularly the ACE inhibitors and the angiotensin receptor blockers, where you can, if you have too much potassium, it can raise your blood potassium, and that should be monitored. On the other hand, people that are on diuretics, thiazide diuretics, or loop diuretics tend to lose potassium, and they need to eat more. And of course, we think bananas are particularly high in potassium, but the truth is all fruit is high in potassium. And so if you're on a drug that is likely to raise your potassium and you eat a lot of fruit, it would be good to have your potassium checked from time to time. But bananas are not really any more rich in potassium than other fruits. So if you're on a drug that inhibits potassium excretion, you may want to check with your doctor on that. So I'm going to turn it back to Chris at this point, and it is good to talk to you. I'm sorry Dr. Nelson couldn't be with us tonight, but I'm glad I could fill in.
Well, thank you, Dr. Adams. That was not only it might have been short, but it was inspirational. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm certainly motivated to eat more fruit, and not just a single fruit, but a variety of fruit, and including dried, dehydrated fruits in there. So great. Thank you for that, that good reminder and a really interesting facts about how it can impact us in such powerful ways. So thank you very much. So I want to remind you all of what we've kind of talked about throughout, and it's that you're more than just a body. You also have a brain, you have emotions, and God wants you to have whole person health. And part of that is spiritual health. And so we talk about spiritual health here. You'll remember on the first night, we spoke about Naaman and how his servant said, why don't you just give it a try and see what kind of a difference it can make in your life? And so I hope you have been. I hope you have been looking at the scriptures. I hope you've been taking time to pray and seek God for help. We've talked about habits and how those habits that you form in life really shape who you are, and really take time through this program to develop good habits. We talked about power, how it's God that gives us the power and strength that we need. We looked at the life of Jesus and how he overcame and showed us how we can overcome. We looked at the element of faith and how faith is important in connecting us with Christ and the help that he wants to give us. We looked at how struggling is a real part of life, but it's important. And through our trials, God shapes us. And I just want to remind you of the scripture in Psalms 46, verse 1. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And I hope that God is your help in trouble. I want to tell you about a time when I was a young man, a young boy, I guess. My mother did her best to raise my brother and I, and she didn't have an easy job because we were very rambunctious boys. And so she would get groceries one day during the week. It was Tuesday or Wednesday or something, and she would put them in the refrigerator. And there was one thing that when she got groceries, I always checked to see if she got it, and it was like my favorite thing ever. And I don't know if you remember yogurt packs that would come in 6 packs. It would be 6, and then you have to break off a yogurt pack. Do you remember those? So she would buy the yogurt packs, and I think there was a pack that would come. It would be a strawberry and banana. It was one flavor, and then it would always have 2 flavors. You know, there would be another flavor, and it was like blueberry. And the blueberry was okay, but I loved strawberry and banana yogurt. It was just my favorite. And so my brother liked yogurt as well. We both liked it. So the 2 of us had to share a 6-pack. You know, that meant 6 for me, 3 for me, and not 6, but 3 for me and 3 for Scott. And I remember one week my mom got the groceries. My brother was gone with some friends, and I was particularly hungry, and I saw the yogurt in the refrigerator, and I went and got one and really enjoyed it. It was delicious. And I went and did my things, and I got thinking about the yogurt. I thought, I want another one. So I went back and had another one. And then a while later, I was like, man, that was so delicious. And I went back and had a third. But my brother was gone. He didn't know what was going on. And I thought, well, he's not going to miss one of these yogurts. So I took one of his yogurts and I ate it. And then I ate another one. And there was only one left. It was one. I ate 5 yogurts. Can you believe the intemperance that I had? Anyway, just terrible. I was feeling guilty at this point. Like I'd eaten what I shouldn't have eaten, and I should have had resolve and not done it. And I was feeling bad. But, you know, guilt kind of overcomes us. And what do we do in that moment? And all of a sudden it occurred to me, wait a minute, if Scott sees that last yogurt there, I'm in trouble. Now, my brother is much bigger than I. I mean, he's a giant of a man. He was, at the time we were boys, but he was always bigger than I. And he was older than me and stuff. So I thought, if he sees one yogurt, he's going to know that I've eaten all of mine and 2 of his. I said, this cannot happen. This cannot happen. And so I'm ashamed to tell you that I went in the refrigerator. I opened the door. I grabbed the last yogurt. I ate it. And then I hid all the yogurts in the bottom of the trash and I covered it. I'm ashamed of myself, you know, and we've made amends since, you know, I've made it up to him, but I'm probably not the only one that gets overcome by things, even things that we eat, and struggle with it. And we know in our heart of hearts that we need strength not to do that, and yet we give in. And there's this topic called willpower, or another word here in the South, we call it grit. Just good old grit, you know, just stick in there, you know. And I needed willpower to resist that, you know. Now, willpower is something that we all kind of subconsciously know is important. You need willpower. But how do we get it? You know, I needed willpower at that moment. And how do we get it? We think if we just put in more effort, oh, that will do it. Well, there was an interesting study that was done some years ago by a psychologist, Chia Jung. And he did this study where they took 2 groups. They took one pianist, and they had this pianist play a song, and then it had the same pianist pause and had him play a different section of that song. Now, before they had 2 different groups, and before the 2 different groups listened to the pianist, they were given a survey, and they were asked, do you believe that talent is important in helping someone to become a successful musician? Or do you believe that hard work and effort is important in helping someone to become a musician? And most individuals, it was a high percentage, around 80 or percentage or so, said that effort leads to someone being a great musician. So when they played this recording to the people, they did not know that it was the same person. They thought it was the same person, but they played the first recording and they said, this is someone that has worked hard to become a musician. They put a lot of effort into it. And you're hearing the result of that. And then they played the other section and they said, this person is someone who was early on showed natural giftedness towards music. They have a talent in it. As a young person, they excelled in music. And so they asked the individuals, which one do you think will become the better musician overall moving forward? Resoundingly, the preponderance of people said the person with early natural talent would be the better musician. Now, this was the same person. They didn't realize that. Now, early in the survey, when they did it, they thought effort would make someone better. but their subconscious bias came out when they heard it, and they said, no, it will be natural talent, early adoption to music. That's what's going to make someone better. Now, this idea, this talent myth affects us. It affects me. It affects you. Somehow we think, well, that person is healthier because it's just easier for them. It's in their genetics. It's in their DNA, whatever. We have all these reasons about it's easier for them and harder for us. But the facts are, this program has demonstrated scientifically with research that if you put in the effort, if you follow the program, that you will have success. Effort is key in this program, and you will have a difference. So this willpower, this grit, this sticking with it is key to you finding long-lasting change and difference. So how do you find that willpower? Now, I'm going to tell you it's different than what you think. You might think, well, if I just put my shoulder to it, if I just grit my teeth, if I just try harder. I want to tell you it's a little different than you think. I want to share with you a Bible story that talks about this. This is in Matthew chapter 14. Jesus had been with his disciples doing ministry, and it had been a long day. They were tired. He put them in a boat and he sent them across the sea. Jesus went up to a mountain and pray, and the disciples were experienced on boats. They were fishermen. They were used to being out there. The sun set, it got dark, and a storm came in, and it was a very severe storm. And the Bible actually says it tossed the boat around. Must have been bad, but it got really bad until they were terrified. So late into the night, Jesus comes down and he walks across the water. And I believe the story is just as it says. He actually walked across the water because the disciples saw him there and they became terrified. They thought it was a ghost. And Jesus says in Matthew chapter 14, he says, be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. Now there's a powerful lesson here. Just a powerful lesson. When we are being tossed around in life, we are being challenged in our experience. We feel like we're going to be overcome with difficulty. Jesus' words to them are just as true to us today. Be of good cheer. It is I. Don't be afraid. Jesus will be with us through all of these difficult situations we face. Poor health, diabetes, trying to lose weight, high blood pressure. Jesus will be with us through all of these things. He is the one that will be there and give us help. So Peter, this disciple in the boat, gets the idea, Lord, if it's you and you're walking on the water, just ask me to come to you so that I too can walk on the water. Peter, who had moments before been afraid about being overcome by waves, now sensed that he was in the presence of one who could help him rise above the waves. And so Jesus said, come. So Peter got out of the boat. He started walking to Jesus, and he was above the water. Now he began to notice the waves. He looked back at the disciples that were behind him, and he lost sight of the one who could give him help. And he sunk straight away, went down in the water. I mean, that's the natural thing for him to sink in water. And it's natural for us to not have the willpower they need, to give in to temptation, whatever. It's natural. But Peter recognized that he needed help, obviously. And so he says this in Matthew 14 and verse 30. And beginning to sink, he cried, Lord, save me. Lord, save me. He recognized he needed help, and he knew there was one who could help him. It was Jesus. Lord, save me. Now, Jesus was there and willing to help, but Peter had to be willing to have him help him. Like Jesus wouldn't have forced him. Like Peter had to be willing. He had to ask, Lord, save me. And so Jesus immediately pulled him out of the water. This is the key, the source of where willpower is. It's giving your will to the one who has power. It's giving your choice to the one who has power. When you say, Lord, save me, Jesus can give you strength and help in ways that you would not have experienced did you not ask. This is where real willpower is. That's hard to say kind of fast. Real willpower. I'll remind you of the text in Psalms 46, verse 1 that says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. So I just want to encourage you with that this week and next week and the week after that and the week after that, is that you need willpower. You need grit. You need to press in. but you can't do it on your own. You can only do it in the strength that Jesus has for you. So I want to pray for you that God will be with you and give you that strength. Father in heaven, I just want to pray for each person here, that you will help them to have the will to surrender it to you, that they might experience power in their life. And I pray that you'll bless them this week, give them strength, give them wisdom as they make choices that will be lasting, and give them health. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, at this time, I want to invite Dr. Laura. She is going to share with us about exercise, and I'm looking forward to what she has to say. Dr. Laura, are you here? There, I see you now. Okay, thank you.
There are a lot of buttons in my life I am finding. It is good to see you each back here this evening. It is good to be back. We are going to do a brief review of where we have been. And so we started talking about burst exercise, how to do high intensity training, interval training, even with walking. Then we progressed that a couple different weeks with different ways that you can progress it. Last time I was with you, we looked at stretching principles and how to do those stretch exercises. And so tonight, it is time for the other exercise for strength training principles and exercises. So we are going to go through a little bit of what you can do to get stronger. Now, why should we strength train? Well, as we get older, naturally, our lean muscle mass decreases. Our bodies will do whatever they can to fill that space, and usually they try to fill it with fat. So we need to constantly be working on improving our muscle mass. We can get bone density improvements and fight osteoporosis through strength training and through the use of weights. We can also use strength training to help us manage and lose weight, which is why you signed up for this program, to improve our metabolism and to burn more calories throughout the day. We can improve our quality of life, our ability to do everyday activities. But did you know that we can actually improve our thinking skills through strength training? There have been research to show that there are a slow in the functional declines in individuals with dementia if they are doing strength training. So there are many other side effects to diseases that you can see on the list there that can be reduced through strength training. So I hope that you are with me on this journey and you are ready to start into some learning about strength training this evening. Now, there are a lot of options when we talk about strength training. You can strength train at home, or you can strength train in a gym. You can use the typical weight machines that a gym would have, but there are a lot of exercises that you can do with your own body weight for strength training. You can use resistant bands or tubing, or you can use free weights. And I'm going to show you just a couple of options for free weights tonight. These are my favorite. They are actually an ankle weight. And so they have the elastic or hook and loop to be able to hook around one's ankle and tighten that way. But I like these because when I bought them, I made sure that they had a zipper at the top. These are my 5-pound weights, but I could take them down to 1 pound if I needed to. So I like the diversity that this offers me. However, if you don't want to go out and buy a whole lot to be able to do this weight training, let me tell you about my friends from the kitchen. You can use cans, and you can start with a little can if you need to. And you can work your way up to a more standard size can, and even, pineapple chunks come in even larger can, and they match our topic tonight. So there you go. So you can use cans for upper body weights, and they work really well for you as well. So as always, we advise that you please check with your doctor before you begin new exercise training. Make sure that this aligns with their goals for your health and that there aren't any difficulties that you may run into. Work those out through with your doctor. It is also a good idea to please warm up with a good aerobic or cardio activity for 10 minutes before you begin, because injuries in strength training tend to happen when there are cold muscles more than when your muscles are well warmed up. So we want you to be good and warmed up and ready. Now, some basic strength training principles. oftentimes, as we are doing a really heavy lift, what we do is we kind of close off our airway and we try to hold our breath and really muster all of our energy by somehow not breathing. But we can actually do ourselves a lot of harm that way. So as you are doing your strength training, really work on being able to talk as you do the exercise, being able to breathe normally and focusing on that. Breathing in as you relax, breathing out as you do the hard work of the exercise, okay? You can stand in front of a mirror or video yourself again, or you can have someone in your family watch you and give you tips on your form, because proper form is very important for this. Now, another thing we need to make sure of is whatever part of your body you're working. I've been focusing a lot on my arms and my biceps tonight because they're easy to show you on the camera. But whatever part of the body you're working, make sure everything else is holding still and staying well stabilized. The only thing you should be working is that muscle group that you are focusing on strengthening, okay? So as I do this, I'm just working the muscle, making my elbow move back and forth. I'm not doing a whole lot with my wrist. I'm not doing anything with my shoulder, all of that. Now be efficient with your exercise. You shouldn't have to do 100 activities with this can, okay? If you're having to do 100 before you're feeling tired, that means that you don't have enough resistance. So work on finding something more for resistance, or finding a harder exercise. Another thing is listen to your body. Now, I like to tell my patients when I am working in the clinic that pain and soreness are not the same thing, okay? Oftentimes we get on our mind, ouch, that really hurts because I worked out. No, that's not the same thing. So pain happens while you're working the muscle. So if I am doing this lift and I hurt, then I need to stop. I need to set down that weight. Maybe I need to try with my small weight today and see, okay, maybe that's a little bit better for me. If I still have pain, then I need to stop. And maybe I'll try again next week and see how things are going then. Okay. So if you have pain as you're doing an activity, that's a sign from your body that something is wrong. So please stop, get that pain checked out by a medical professional, and make sure that you are okay with a green light to continue on. Now, soreness, on the other hand, I always tell patients that soreness is the sign that I've been doing my job. Because if I have found places that you are weak and I am giving you exercises to work that, and you feel soreness a day or two after you've done those exercises, that means your body is getting stronger. Your muscles are doing the work to break themselves down and build up again even stronger. And so that means you're doing the right thing. Keep on doing it. The best thing you can do when you feel sore in a muscle is to make sure that you, yes, give yourself a rest day at least one day a week, but then keep working that muscle. Don't give it a break when it feels sore. Make sure you let it know, yes, I intended to work you out and you're going to do it again. So some more basic principles. You should not try to focus on the same muscles day after day after day. So strength training, maybe your arms and your core muscles of your gut are good to focus on one day and then have a leg day another day of the week. The Department of Health and Human Services actually recommends that we strength train at least twice a week. And so that's a good way to break up your strength training exercise. Okay, another thing is strength training should be nice and slow and rhythmic. It should go right along with the beat of a routine, the beat of a music or something like that, but there shouldn't be any jerking motions. Nothing quick, nothing fast. That is going to cause a type of injury. So you want to keep it nice and slow and controlled, both on your way up and on your way back down. It actually takes more effort to slowly control the going back down than it does to get it up there in the first place. So remember, our goal is to replace those shrinking muscle fibers with new strengthened muscles. Here are a few ways that you might do that with your arms. You may start working on push-ups. Now, if the floor is too difficult for you to do push-ups, you can also do them against a wall and work your way slowly down, maybe use a table. And before you get to the floor, as you are doing this week by week to improve your strength, You can use resistance bands like are shown in that middle picture, or you can use the cans like she is showing in the park pictures, where you can do your workout just by having the groceries that you need and focusing on specific muscles and activities. A good core exercise that you can work on is called abdominal bracing. And even though this picture shows it lying down, you can actually do it in the sitting position like I am now. You're going to make sure that your feet are side by side on the ground. They're supporting you well. You're going to start with really good posture. And then you're just going to take your belly button and pretend like you're trying to tuck it into your backbone. Okay? So you're just going to pull that in. Now, as you're doing that, I am doing one right now, and I can still breathe and talk to you as normal. Okay? You can hold this for a count of 3, maybe if you're just starting out, a count of 5 or 10 as you continue to work on this, and then you relax. And the only thing that changes is my body's posture as I relax. So you can see my belly coming back out again versus when I pull it in and really work on tucking that belly button into my spine. Here are a variety of leg exercises that can be done just using a chair. Now, I will say, make sure and use a chair for all of these for balance. So you can see she's working on kicking from the chair, on working her leg in different directions out to the side, across her body, back behind her, marching up in front of her, doing the squats down. It's highly recommended that if you're going to do those, that you go ahead and have the chair behind you. Just let yourself barely feel that chair and then come back up again. And that's a great way to keep those legs working and really gain muscles in the legs. Now, I think there are a lot of options out there. You may be aware of them. If you use a smartphone, these are many options that are available to you. I made Fit On a very large option because I like it. It's one I personally have found success with in my life. I am able to use it to do workouts in my home. I am able to connect with friends through it, and that makes it easier to keep up my progress, to feel rewarded as I finish because they get to see that I got done with a workout too. So it's very rewarding to be able to connect with friends and work out that way. You can even video connect with friends and do workouts that way if that's your thing. So I highly recommend that you find a way that you can connect with friends and your accountability team and continue working on this to create a healthier you. I know this program, we can see the finish line coming in a few weeks, but don't lose that accountability team because they really help you keep to what your goals are in life. So again, continue to ensure that you're challenging your aerobic capacity. If you haven't changed recently a variable in your burst training, make sure and change it up a little bit. Make sure that you're still getting to that heavy breathing where it's difficult to complete a full sentence. Now, work on stretching after you've done that aerobic activity so that your muscles are ready to accept more strength as well. They're ready to maintain good length. And then now we start with 2 sessions a week of strength training exercises. So if it's possible for you and it's agreeable with your doctor, you start with 1 section working on your arms and your core, and also 1 section strengthening your legs on separate days, and work on building your accountability team so that you will have continued success when this program completes. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. All right, Rachel, we're ready for your culinary highlights.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen here. Hopefully you can all see it. All right, wonderful. Today, I have a couple of recipes to share with you, but just thinking ahead, like fruit is something that's always really easy and accessible to every one of us. And one of the things I've had fun with over the years is trying different fruits that I had never tried before. And one of those was guava. And it's a whole different experience, even eating guava if you've never tried it fresh. And there's many other ones out there that you can try. When I was growing up, a lot of what we ate was grapes and apples and bananas and oranges. And so a whole new world was open to me when I tried a lot of different things. Today's recipes, again, are very simple because fruit is always good and don't really have to do too much with it. And it's also very easy to make this one specifically to size. So you can see I have humongous containers here, but you don't have to do that if you don't have a big family. So I have pears and I have applesauce and I have some granola. And with the pears, you could use fresh pears if you wanted. You still need applesauce for this. And as you see, I chose an unsweetened here. And for the granola, I've also chosen unsweetened. And I don't know if they still have this one in the store. I haven't looked lately because I like to make my own granola, but I'm pretty sure you can probably still find this one. I left the diced pears in the middle to show you that you can buy these in 100% juice, which the can comes to, but it's in a personal size so that you can make this just for you if you're just one person, which can make life a lot easier sometimes so you don't have a lot left over. And essentially what you do with this recipe is you mix equal portions of the diced pears and applesauce, and you put it in the bottom of a baking container. You could use a ramekin, you can use a 9x9 pan, and then you top it with granola to taste, however much you think. Probably a thin layer, it does enough. And it makes kind of like a crisp. And so you're going to put it in the oven at 350 for about 15 minutes. And it's, again, very simple. And you can see I made 2 different sizes of it. And the interesting thing about this is you can mix up your fruit as much as you want. So say you don't love canned pears, or maybe you have a whole bunch of blueberries. You can throw blueberries in instead, or strawberries, or just anything you want. And you can see I even topped mine here with some dried apples. So you can use dried apples in there too if you want. I think that's actually in the granola, in that one granola. So there's lots of different ways that you can vary this up. And it's so easy. You can make it just, again, for yourself. I have a bonus recipe tonight too. This recipe only takes 2 ingredients, bananas and oatmeal. And it's 2 bananas that you just smash up. And you add your cup of oats to it. And at this point, you could add different things. We've talked about flaxseed being very helpful for us. And so you could add a tablespoon of flaxseed here if you'd like, ground flaxseed. And you can mix in all different kinds of things. Like if you wanted to put maybe a couple tablespoons of nuts, or a couple tablespoons of raisins or dates. Or even blueberries, you can do that. So you can mix in anything into this recipe. And all we do is just form them into little balls. And it makes about 6. And I call these breakfast cookies. And I just left mine plain in this one, baked them on my silpat mat, patted them out a little bit. And then you have breakfast cookies that you can use, and you could serve them with yogurt or eat them just like they are. So again, very simple, lots of different variations, which I'm all about changing things up and keep things from being boring. So thank you very much. That's all I have for you tonight.